run out a number of applications that you can use. All right, I'm going to move on? Is okay.
Since you found that there's a way to zoom in,
Excuse me?
there's a way to zoom in on the PowerPoint if you're interested. You can right click.
Well, to zoom in, help the screen there.
It doesn't. So what it would do is it makes the whole PowerPoint larger. Like it zooms in here.
I'm not going to have the same problem on this call. Okay.
Okay.
So the next talk is organic mummy berries in blueberries. I did this work with Tom Walters. I'm not doing that. Okay. All right. Okay. So the most problematic disease issue facing the blueberry industry is mummyberry. Everybody knows this. It's a problem in organic blueberries. We already went over. It's really valuable. 90% of the production in Washington is in eastern Washington, and currently that area is free of mummyberry. But mummyberry in western Washington is, I think, production limiting or production ending, can be with losses of 50% or more. It's just a very, very troublesome pest. And if you're into organic blueberries, you know that already. Jay Schreiber has done more work on mummyberry work than anybody in the Pacific Northwest. And this last bullet point right here is, how did you get that nifty red dot? Right click. All right, that's a new one on me. All right. So this one here is a quote from Jay Schreiber. No good organic control measures, certainly no documented chemical control measures that are NOP compliant. And when you see most of my data here, you will see why I agree with that statement. So anyway, we got a lot of losses for mummyberry. Organic control of mummyberry is probably of little interest to most people in the blueberry industry. If you're an organic blueberry, it is a really big interest, and if you're an organic mummyberry grower in western Washington, it could be one of your biggest issues. And so, another thing is, if mummyberry makes a jump over to eastern Washington, holy smokes, and it's a problem over there, those guys will be in really, really big trouble. And so it could threaten the viability of that really expensive, lucrative organic blueberry market, like Gary Middleton over there. So this is a project we worked on for 3 years. The first year I did it without any commission funds. This is where I worked at the first year, and it wasn't an organic site. They just don't use any pesticides. They don't use any fungicides, and it is horrible with, you know this place, Dolphy? Now, how bad's the mummyberry there? It's pretty bad. So this is what a leaf strike will look like. That's a leaf strike. This is hitting the fruit. And a lot of people think mummyberry is bad because they see the mummified berries. There's many berries get lost before you see the white mummies. So it's probably losses are greater than what you realize, because a lot of these flowers get taken off and you never see the fruit. There's a flower strike. So anyway, this is the results from 2014. I had eight different treatments, and it's ranked from the worst to the best. And it's really bad when over half of your products have more mummyberry than the untreated check. But the short answer was the pressure was just so high here that it just swamped everything. 2015, disappointing is putting it mildly. The untreated check had the least mummyberry in it. Everything was worse. But the reason for this actually was an artifact of the trial. It just happened to be that there was an area in the field that was very low yielding and just didn't have mummyberry, and it had to do, most of the untreated plots were in the area where there wasn't much mummyberry. But products that this Actinovate and Actinovate plus double nickel and Serenade were the most kind of effective. If you say Regalia, maybe, but you couldn't draw too many conclusions from 2015. As far as infected fruit, Serenade, Optimum, this Activate plus Double Nickel were, and Double Nickel alone and Activate were the ones that had some promise, but nothing was that great. But in 2016, after doing 3 years of work, we had some new ideas and we learned some things on how to do the trial better. And I wanted to look at this product called Polyoxin D. You may know it as PhD. There's another formulation that's called OSO. And OSO is currently submitted to the, I'm drawing a blank here, the Organic Materials Research Institute, to see if this can be certified to be organic. And I want to look at OSO and OSO with some other NOP compliant products. And so we started, Dolphy told us when ascospores were going to fly, and we started, you got to start early before the ascospores fly. So this is the time of first application, the second application. I know it looks like we're using a lawnmower, but it works. Don over here, there he is on all of his glory. But I just want to point out, this is, we had 14 treatments here. And I should point, this is 7 applications for some of these. This one if you see A, C, E, G, and see, if it says 6 and 6, that means these are the same treatment. And so we rotate Actinovate, OSO, Actinovate, OSO, Actinovate, OSO. And so we had these programs. And we actually, I kind of collapsed it down. This is Regalia plus Activate applied 4 times in rotation with 3 applications of OSO. So this is a program here. And these are ranked from the most effective on strikes on flowers and leaf strikes. And again, untreated checks in the middle, but lime sulfur. We had 4 applications of lime sulfur. 4 applications applied pre-bloom. So what this is doing, interestingly enough, applied to the plant, but also a directed spray to the ground to kill the mycelium, the little mushrooms. What's the apothecia? And it just burns off all the apothecia. Keep an eye on this product. This is OSO at the high rate. I'm going to point out this is OSO at the high rate. This is OSO at the low rate. So this was 66 days after the first application, 18 days after the last application. So we have some significant differences here. If we look at infected fruit, Actinovate followed by OSO. Actinovate rotated with OSO. We had OSO rotated with Regalia. We had lime sulfur rotated with OSO, and straight OSO as far as having the fewest infected fruit. This is incidence of botrytis. Our botrytis pressure was pretty low because it's pretty warm, pretty dry. So we didn't have significant differences here, but the one with the least botrytis was Regalia. Lime sulfur, double nickel, OSO, fracture had the lowest. So this wasn't earth-shaking, but we got some better results this year than we had before. We actually had significant difference, things that significantly lowered this. But I want to tell you about a second trial that we did with
Alan, we just had a quick question from Prosser about the size of the plots for the chemical trials.
The size of the plots is 6 plants in a plot, which is small, but this ends up being a big trial. And we'd be hard-pressed to get a bigger plot. And I'm going to talk about the influence of plot size in a little bit. So the question behind that question is my plot size too small? Which is a good question. So we did another trial. This is in the same field. The same location. Again, this is all Skagit Valley, just south of the WSU research station. It was a conventional trial, but it included OSO at the same rates as organic trial, but we had quite different results here, or some different results. Same experimental design. We had 15 treatments. There were 5 program treatments, and then we had 9 single active ingredients. So again, a little busy, but here's an untreated check. This yellow is all one program. So we use Bravo, followed by Indar, followed by Proline, followed by Switch, followed by Pristine. And then we ended up with Abound plus Elevate. Then we had only Meteor, which is generic Roverall. We had Topsin rotated with Iprodione. We had a product that all of you have never heard of at 3 different rates. We had Kinja. So if you're really up on these kind of things, Kinja is the product that we got the Section 18 for botrytis. So we're using it for botrytis. But interestingly enough, no one has ever looked at it for use on mummyberry. So this is the first time we've ever looked at mummyberry with Kinja. We had straight Switch. We had Kinja rotated with Omega, Bravo, and Indar. We had straight Switch. We had Indar rotated with Pristine and Switch. And then we had 2 kinds of OSO treatments, or OSO at 2 different rates. So when we looked at, so this is the 15 treatments in a more collapsed fashion. Each line is a treatment. And when we look at these products, looking at strikes on flowers and leaves on May 3rd, you look at the untreated check down here. You really like it when your untreated check is that has the most. And if you look at what worked the best, well, the heavy duty Bravo, Indar, Proline, Switch, Pristine, Abound, Elevate. That's the big gun trial, and it had the least. But so did Bravo, Indar, Switch. So did Meteor, which is Iprodione. We use Iprodione for botrytis control, except botrytis has resistance to it. This is the second year in a row that we have shown that it has efficacy against mummyberry. But look at this. OSO at the high rate and OSO at the low rate worked pretty well in this trial. So did Indar, Pristine, and Switch. Kinja, so-so. It has some activity at this. But let's just look at flower and leaf strikes. If you look at berries, it's similar. Untreated check down at the bottom. The heavy gun, the big heavy duty program had least, closely followed by just Switch, Topsin rotated with Meteor, Indar, Pristine, Switch. The high rate of OSO, in the last one, this was the second best. OSO had activity in here too. So Kinja, okay, has some activity. This product that's never been tried against mummyberry before did not work. So Meteor or Iprodione was effective was effective. So actually, this is from another one, but we had Meteor was effective in this trial. We also had Roverall wasn't effective in another trial. But here's a point I wanted to make. OSO was not effective in the organic trial as it was in the conventional trial. The same was also true of a product called Fracture. And here is the logic on this. There were a number of products that did not work well in the organic trial, and the pressure was just heavier in there. And so you will have 6 plants that very likely could be surrounded on all 4 sides by products that didn't work very well. And so the pressure in that plot was heavier than the OSO treatment in the conventional trial where most products worked. And so what we think is going on is OSO and some of these organic products, they're not super effective. But if you control everything, if you apply OSO over a larger area, you're probably going to get better control than if you apply OSO in just a small area. So in this case, plot size probably worked against some of these products in the organic trial and put them at a disadvantage they did not face in the conventional trial. Anyway, so products that were in this trial that were most effective were Iprodion or Meteor, Proline, Propulse, Oso, Luna Tranquility. There are two trials. I'm only talking about one of them in here. Kinja was intermediate in efficacy. It was the first trial ever against mummyberry, but may have some activity. The pressure was low in this trial, which limits the conclusions we can draw, but Fracture, Top Guard Specialty, Bravo, the low rate of Oso didn't work so well against that. Products that had better control for botrytis, Meteor, Luna Tranquility, Propulse, Proline, Captan, Switch, Pristine worked. Polyoxin D currently is conventionally registered. We've had pretty good luck in our raspberry botrytis trials as well. This one is in the process of OMRI to be reviewed. The approval is going to be difficult for this product. Will require some industry support. And if we really think this is a good product, the North American Blueberry Council has agreed to lobby for its organic certification, but we need some more. We need another year's data to make sure it works. Now, this is a cut and paste by the company that submitted it for organic. I said, is it going to get organic status? I'm talking to these folks and tell us if this is going to get organically certified. They said 50% chance of success for organic use in time for the 2018 season or 2019 season if the decision is delayed. 50-50 probability is their best guess. So it has to go through this comments, conclusion on a technical report is going in spring of 2017. The National Organic Standard Board will make a recommendation to the full board late summer, early fall of 2017. They need grower supports, letter, public hearing, 3-minute presentations. And I don't know why this is, but there are people who show up and oppose organic fungicides to be allowed in organic. There are people that don't want organic pesticides to be used in organic crops. And so there's this intensive opposition to public hearing. It doesn't help the case when people show up and testify against products like this from being certified as organic. So I can tell you, doing this organic mummyberry work has been difficult. The Blueberry Commission Research Committee has been patient with us, funding our work even after we had a couple years of poor results. But in this trial, if you look at it, actinovate, double nickel, regalia, lime sulfur, and Oso all had some activity. We're learning more on how to use them. I'm particularly interested in I wonder what lime sulfur, 4 shots of lime sulfur and followed with 4 shots of Oso would do, but also regalia, actinovate, serenade. After my 4th year of doing this work, we finally got some results that we think mean something. For 2017, as usual, because I'm a professional researcher, so I always want more money to do more work. I hope to continue this work, try some new products. I'm interested in, the best thing we had was 4 applications of lime sulfur and Oso at the high rate. I also want to, one thing, I rotated products and I used some tank mix. I did not rotate tank mixes, so this is something I haven't done is rotate tank mixes. And I want to get away from some small plot work and try some larger scale trials. Maybe find some organic growers that are interested in trialing some of the programs that seem to have some promise. So we'd like to maybe take some of these maybe promising results and see if somebody wants to split a field or do part of a field. So,
do we have any questions?
Can you put some more light on this lime sulfur trials? What was the duration between 4 applications, or some more light on these?
Don, do you remember? We were doing it at roughly 7-day intervals, 7 to 10-day intervals, kind of a little bit weather permitting. And I'm not familiar. I don't know if you're familiar with lime sulfur. Have you ever used that product? Okay. It's a terrible, nasty, smelly, disgusting, corrosive, hard on your equipment product. And if you use it, you'll say, I don't want to mess with this. But what's that? Don't put your coveralls in with your wife's laundry. Yeah, it's a pretty smelly product, but there's hundreds of thousands of acres of it used in grapes in California and also in tree fruit. The most common use in Washington is as a blossom thinner in apples. So it's used, but I could show you some slides of clogged nozzles and corroded up nozzle tips. Anyone have much use here with lime sulfur? What do you use it for,
We have
Jeff?
a question here.
Okay, what do you use it for? Pre-emergence on raspberry nursery. Okay, question.
Alan, what, if any, disturbance cultivation were you doing in this trial as well?
Good question. I was doing no disturbance cultivation, and if you are, that would add a level of complexity that A, we weren't able to handle, and two, cost more than we didn't have much money to do this trial. But the solution for mummyberry is going to have to be integrating non-chemical and chemical control. So, putting sawdust up against the edge or coming in and raking out the apothecia is going to be part of it. We're just trying to establish, do any of these things work?
We have a few more minutes. Any more?
Okay, the way we evaluate this is, so we made our applications every 7 days. And so either the afternoon before the morning we applied or in the morning before the afternoon we applied. So every 7 days we pulled off X number of berries per plot, and then we did the salt dunk method. We've got that system down. Again, if in a perfect world I'd like to have bigger plots, that might show better efficacy, but we have some limits on that. Yes.
I have another question about the SWD. Have you looked at all at Amy Dreve's work with winter control on like host plants, non-blueberry host plants? And do you think you'll work some of that in your research in the future?
Okay. So, yes, I've looked at Amy Dree's work about that too. No, I'm not going to. I don't think anyone's going to pay me money to do that kind of work. And holy smokes, how are you going to do that? I just can't even fathom how to do that. And I think it's even harder over here. This is kind of an inside conversation. I know what she's talking about, and she knows what she's talking about, but it's kind of hard to explain. The short answer is no. How are you going to do that? Look at a pesticide label. I don't know that it would be legal. I don't know. I don't know how you would do that. And the other thing is this: where we're at, it's cold. I mean, you usually don't see them out in the wintertime where we are. But I'll tell you this: I've never sprayed my cherries for SWD, and I never had a problem with SWD in cherries. And this year, every stinking cherry I had SWD in it. I'm not sure what happened, but whether it had a more successful overwintering or something, but we had SWD problems in places this year we've not seen. And the interesting thing is we had them in cherries in late May, early June, but we didn't have them in blueberries after cherries, which makes no sense. Okay, I'm going to go unless there's one more. Okay, here comes the toughest question. I don't know what it is. It's going to be the hardest question.
You mentioned at the end of JetAg tank mix. Did you mix tank mix to JetAg, and would it counteract the sugar? Like you're attracting with sugar, but you're repelling.
It does. Okay, so that is a very insightful, thoughtful question. We have tank mix Jet Ag, and Jet Ag is compatible. Okay, listen to the whole thing here. We've done tank mixes, and it is compatible with most of these products, and it even says on the label that it's compatible. I have not done Jet Ag and with a product with corn syrup. If I had infinite resources and plot to do work, I would try that. But the thing is, those things might be mutually exclusive, because Jet Ag theoretically would prevent the female from going around and feeding on that, but the sugar may counteract that. So that work hasn't been done. I can tell you, nobody has done that work. So in a rambling way, I can't answer the question because that work hasn't been done. Maybe that wasn't the hardest question, but that was a very interesting question. Okay. I take the mic out and drop it and say I'm done.
All right. Let's give Alan a hand. Thanks, Alan. So that means we're concluding the session just a little bit early. So as usual, if you could return those surveys, there's a box just at the back. They really help us improve next year and give a good feedback to all the